From the bench to the bleachers, you are listening to the only podcast in Ontario that keeps you in the game.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's do this.
I might be a conspiracy theorist, but I believe, like the government, this has a lot of pure, healthy qualities to it. And it has for a lot of things. And I think the government quashed it so that they can help big pharma poison people. That's me. Sorry,
I'll
but
agree with you on that one. I mean, that doesn't even seem so far-fetched. You just look at what happened and it kind of just leads you right there.
Why is a weed? Why is a natural weed that can grow in the ground illegal, right? We're not talking peyote where you're mind altering. We're just talking about something
it's a little bit of grass. I don't know. I never understood. I never understood. I just like, it seems pretty obvious. It's like, oh, let's take this thing that's good and then get people hooked on
opioids,
it's
right?
It's insane. I started saying this years ago to my friends. I was like, everybody's on pills, because we'd go out, man, see people that are like, just soccer mom looking ladies, probably my age now, around our age group. But this was when I was a little younger. And man, they're acting like they're on heroin. And, and I'm just sitting there going, man, I've never been much of a hardcore drug user at all. I mean, I like grass here and there. That's about it. I drink sparingly too. But, I've been exposed to a lot of crap, just by happenstance and circumstance. And I know what a heroin junkie is like, man. I've had some people really close to me in my life have issues with that. And I'm seeing these ladies that are soccer moms at the grocery store. I'm like, why is she acting like she's on fucking heroin? And then I realized and just acting like a zombie, like they're not there. And I started to realize you're on Percocets, or you're on Oxycontin. You're totally doped to the gills, but you're a normal person. It's like, you're a drug addict, like straight up.
But you know who their pushers are?
The doctors.
They've got the medical pads. The people we're supposed to be trusting, who are regulated through the government, right?
It's a spooky sort of thing, but I think what we're seeing right now is just public consciousness has shifted so much. Because imagine when we were kids, the idea of there being legal grass anywhere, especially here in the States where it's hardcore, I mean, in Arizona where I live, like, it's a felony just to have like marijuana seed on you. It's a big deal. People make a big old deal about it. It's a dried up plant that gets you relaxed. So, and beyond that, like, you and I just said, there's a lot of good things, a lot of beneficial stuff to it, very clearly. And instead of, trying to find a way to nurture that and figure it out and, work it into like the lexicon of how we deal with our problems, we've just demonized it for such a long time and then pushed this dope on people, like, benzodiazepines and opioid pills. And look what's happened. So, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I'm seeing there are new studies with with weed and probably even mushrooms, a little less the lesser drugs, right? But with mental health, it's helping, right?
Oh, I'm not surprised by that at all. I may or may not have in my youth indulged in some psychedelics, some mushroom style, and I may or may not have had some pretty profound experiences on a personal level. And I am not into all that hoodoo crap, all that hippy dippy nonsense. That ain't me. But I can tell you personally that if I had possibly had some psychedelic mushrooms in my youth, that there was definitely some learning and growing moments, and some things that I found, or could have possibly, had this happen, found very beneficial to my mental health.
So what is the gear that you use? Let's just say you're going out on the road with the puppets. What do you use?
I use that Stratocaster. That thing was probably like a mid to late 90s American made Strat. I use that thing. That's my primary touring guitar. And for an amplifier, if we're leaving from like a place where I can travel with my own gear, because we rent gear and borrow gear just for some of our tours because it's easier than flying amps around and stuff. I have a Fender, what is it, a DeVille combo amp I use. And then I have my little assortment of effects pedals, but honestly, that's about it. There's a couple other like guitars I might bring with me just in case I need a backup on the road. But even then, I don't really use anything but that turquoise Strat.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of guitars, but that's the one live. It seems to work out the best. It balances out against Kurt playing a Les Paul, which I'm a Les Paul player as well, and I always played a Les Paul, but I don't in the Meatpuppets play a Les Paul. So it's weird. Everyone's like, you're a Strat guy. And I'm like, I'm not a Strat guy. I became a Strat guy to play in this band and make it sound good live. But actually my first guitar was a Strat, but I had that for a couple years, and then I got into Les Pauls and had my gold top since I've had that for like 21 years now. That's honestly my primary guitar. Those two guitars have that blue Fender and then the gold top Les Paul. I have a Hamer I really like for an electric, but I never really use it because it's not suitable for what I do live. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of the videos I'm seeing, and I know you brought up the Les Paul, but I looked at it when your dad was using the Fender, and you guys strike me, and even your uncle, I see him playing bass. It's a lot of Fender, so it struck me as I'm a Fender guy, right? So my first was a Strat too, right? And then I obviously saw your dad playing the Les Paul quite a few. It looks like he's had that for years because it's pretty damn worn, right? On the paint's coming off some of it.
Oh yeah, that's his classic Les Paul there that he's had forever. He's had the same one for the longest time. He still plays it. He hasn't played it for the last couple years because this dude we know, Jimmy Bernard, built Kurt. He built him like just from scratch, like a guitar that's basically a replica of that classic Les Paul. But this thing's newer. It's not as beat up. It's not as road worn. It's a real tasty guitar. So Kurt's been playing that thing lately, actually, just custom build. But yeah, that classic Les Paul has been around forever. I mean, that thing's probably older than I am. So.
You guys have a pretty good relationship on the stage, because then I know when you talked about how the guitar itself works with puppets that you're using that the Fender, but there was like one song like Up on the Sun. There was some stuff I saw you guys do that was just jaw dropping. Like, I mean, when you're talking about the crowd, I mean, I know the videos I saw were some smaller personalized venues, but not quite the your Lollapaloozas or your festivals. But I mean, just seeing the effects and the way it gelled, and it was jaw dropping, the way that you guys are kind of, it's making the sound transfer from the left and right side of the room back and forth.
Yeah.
Pretty wicked, eh? Pretty, like I said, it's experimental type. Mind altering, like the way that it works. And I guess that's the relationship, how you guys feel on the stage too, right?
Yeah, man, it's really neat. Like, I have to, when we're playing music together, it's a different sort of thing. I'm not like, oh, it's dad, it's just, they're just other dudes. And, I had to rise or do my best to rise to their level, because I'd had my old bands and I thought I was hot shit, blah, blah, blah. But once I started playing with these dudes, I was like, oh, I see. There's something like to be said for being a pro for this long and touring as long as he has. Like, it was just a different level of tightness. And I had to find where I fit in. And it took a minute, I was just like, where do I fit in? So I've always loved rhythm guitar playing, and it pushed me to be a way better rhythm guitar player, which I reveled in the opportunity to. But then after a while, it was a space for me to kind of stretch out and do some leads too. And Kurt's been real generous in letting me do that because he knows where I'm coming from is a little bit different than him. But obviously there's, genetics there, and it's the same strain. And we just kind of started going for it. And I started seeing what I could do against what he could do. And it just was real natural. It's just real natural. Like, I try not to, and I don't always succeed. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and might do more than I need to do. But for the most part, I try to keep it reeled in, but then get in where I fit in and just make it sound cool as hell, man. Like, I'm listening to everything that's happening around me. And like, so part of it's me being conscious of what I'm doing at times. And the other part of it, I don't even realize what I'm doing. I'm just lost in this moment, you know, because we're all just making this up as we go along. It's like, hey, let's get far out. We don't know where we're gonna go. We kind of know where we're gonna go, and I guess there's particular parameters we're operating with them. But I was just like, let's do it, you know, let's go, and then it happens, and then the next thing you know, I listen to this stuff back on these videos, and I'm going, oh, man, I don't remember it sounding that good. Like, I don't even hardly remember it. I remember there being a couple spots where I was like pulling stuff off that I was like, yeah, cool. Like, I wanted to do this lick, and I did it. But then I listen back and I'm going, wow, because I can really hear everybody else too. Because when you're in the moment, it's like a blender, you know, and you're just in the middle of this blender getting blended together. So even though I'm like cognizant of what everybody else is doing, I also have to be not. So
well, yeah,
it's
rusty notes. You're talking about fill-ins or little licks. Like I can see little things more of you, especially in the videos, but also listening. I think on the album from last year, there's all of a sudden you're there. You're kind of in the background, but then a little fill and then back, right? And but
yeah.
It's kind of awesome seeing how it works, because in the end, like you said, those guys have mastered the craft, and it's like those bands that last forever. And I think with you coming in, I really like seeing that, because it's family. But I also believe that I mean, unfortunately in life, you know, you don't want to think about it, but should something ever happen to family with them being older, I think that when the time comes, you've mastered the craft with them so long that, you know, there's going to be another chapter for you, right? I really believe that, because I listen to the inspiration that you're getting from them, the inspiration that you pull from other artists, and seeing some of your creativity being allowed with them, right? You know, allowed or some influence. Like it was funny how you said about your dad. He's like, you know, I have a different point of view or a different generation or genre, meaning so I add a little bit in and it works, right? So.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. The last album was fun. I got to play like half the guitar solos on the thing or me, which is hilarious. And like, seriously, like those two videos that we did for those two songs in particular, that was ridiculous. They were just like, you want to try a lead? And I was like, all right. So I literally plugged the thing in, and I didn't write any of those leads. I just played them. I just kind of like improv something, and I did one take, both of them. And those are those solos. They were just one take, like just jerk off, like improvs. And I was like, oh man, did I get it? I'm like, I got it both times. It's funny because for me personally, getting to read people's like, you know, opinions on the album, and getting to read reviews and getting to see what like the feedback. And there's one song we did 9 pins. I did kind of like a country guitar solo on it, and everyone's just like, I see all these people just like talking about how much they like that guitar solo. And for me, it's awesome because there's a couple parts of it that are very much like something I would do. Like the intro and the outro are very like Elmo-esque licks, like things that are in like, you know, my wheelhouse and my muscle memory with my fingers. But I tried in the moment to play phrasings a little bit differently than I usually would, just a little bit. And it's funny because of that, I'm a tiny bit ahead of and behind the beat. And it's really cool because it gives it such a natural rock and roll feel. You know, it's kind of like a country-ish song, but the guitar stuff, you know, in my mind, I was like, you know, what do you want to, what are you trying to do here? And I was like, I don't know, but like John Fogerty or like Scotty Moore who played with Elvis Presley, I kind of thought like just a little bit more melodic than I would usually do, like a little bit more sing-songy with the lead. And that was the Fogerty influence. And then the Scotty Moore Elvis thing was that I wasn't really worried about being perfectly on time. I was like, you know what? I could lag the tiniest little bit, and that's going to give this like soul. That's going to give it like
shifting in and out. That's how I hear it. It's that it's there and then it's back and then it's there. It's like a shifting of feel to it, right? That's what I get out of it. And the song, like the song Warranty, especially when I watch the video, it's awesome because like I said, again, I used to Tourette's, territorial pissing, even Rage Against the Machine, all those, like, yeah, I did that, right? My head kind of is in a different space now at 40, right? And then all of a sudden when I watch that video with Warranty and I listen to the song, It pans out, and there's like you're there and you're there with your family, but I'm looking at them as it's like they're the same badass people, but I'm actually enjoying this a little better than something that's yelling at me through. Don't get me wrong,
Oh, yeah.
like loud is. There's a moment for it, and I always
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
of
and I
course.
acknowledged it with your style as well personally, and I think even with
Right.
puppet stuff is you can get away. It doesn't have to be loud. Like when I mean like
No.
full of distortion, they're pulling it off with combination of some distortion, but with blues, like quiet blues,
Yeah.
quiet country, folk, like you hear, unless you're in
Yes.
tune to it and don't get the music and you're just hearing the song, you're grasping everything and going, this is pretty damn fucking trippy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally, man. It's fun to like just focus on the songs and kind of lighten up sometimes. Like heavy stuff is fun, like, but just playing music is fun, right? Keeping stuff chill, just letting it be like, I don't know. Like you said, there's a time and a place for everything. And it's been real nice just doing stuff the way we do now. Like it's nice. Like that was a really fun record to make. It was real organic, and the original drummer came back, which was really cool for me because I haven't played on any of the Meatpuppets. I've been in the band for a while, but I didn't play on the album before this, even though I was in the band when it got recorded, because I had my own project at the time and we were recording simultaneously, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm on this one, and it's just been good, man. People liked it enough, which was cool. And I didn't disappoint myself, which I was like, man, I hope I don't shit the bed on this, because like I need to like, I wasn't trying to do anything special either. Like that's the thing. I just wanted to play good. Like I have a real, I don't know. When it comes to recordings, I just want to do good. I just want to like make things sound right. I don't really care about what I have going on it. You know what I mean? Like I got to do really neat stuff on it, which was just gravy, because I was cool enough, just like, you know, playing like really chill, cool rhythm parts on acoustic guitar, kind of just like getting in there. And then I got to put like some real nice frills on it, do some cool leads, do some cool, like, just get my crap in there. You know what I mean? Get my thing in there. And it was fun. It turned out nice. I don't know.
Yeah,
It turned out
it's worked
nice.
out. In my opinion, it's worked out really good, and I think the band's really evolved, and they've kept their fan base, and you know things have worked out for them. So, Elmo, for some of the people that don't know, and I mean, I'm sure it's changed over the last 20 or 30 years, the industry. How bad is it, or how hard or how rough is it? I mean, to make it. And again, I guess everybody's version of make it is different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess, you know, like I said, back in the day when you always thought, you know, we're going to be like Queen, or we're going to be like you're making it. I mean, what is the definition of success, and how hard is it to get success, and how brutal is the business?
Uh, Success is relative, right? And my experience is different. Like, so I grew up and I watched my dad and uncle, you know, try and slug it out for a long time, and then they did have like some modicum of success. You know, like they had a hit record, the Nirvana thing happened concurrently, so it was good timing. And they had already carved out, you know, their little space in, you know, the musical landscape. And then for me coming up, I had like bands, and it was funny because I never did too much. Like I had a couple bands, and then I had one band that we got a little like indie record deal, and then we got a lot of good press, and people. It was always this thing where it was always like on the precipice of getting to the next level. But this was maybe about 13 years ago ish, and things had changed a lot then. And all of a sudden, like social media was huge. So like getting your band happening the same way wasn't quite the same thing, and we were a little bit different, and it just never kind of translated the same way. And I had a couple bands that kind of did the same thing. Like my band after that, like generated a lot of interest real quick, but it just didn't translate the right way. And things didn't feel right. And ever since my pops had got the Meatpuppets back together with my uncle, which was 2006 or so, he had asked me if I wanted to play with them. And he brought it up, and I was like, no, I'm doing my own thing. Finally, around 2011, he asked again if I wanted to go on tour with them. And I was like, yeah, I do, because I'm just sick of trying like you know, I had this band called Flamingo for a hot minute, and we had gotten we got money to record. You know, someone had given us like, you know, money to make an album, which was really cool, and we had started to get offered good shows and stuff like that. And that was actually happening a lot quicker than my other bands. And two of the dudes in the band got drug problems. Now I had never had to deal with that in any of my bands. So I'd been really lucky. No one had been, you know, a fuck up like that. So it was weird. I was like, wait, what? You guys are addicted to drugs? I was like, that's so cliche. I was like, you suck. So I just bailed. I bailed on that project. I got really disheartened because it just was weird. I felt like I had tried with this one band, Kirkwood Dillinger, for years, and then I start my other band, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like, this is what's up. And to have other people, I don't know, that I was close to. There were people that I'd known for a long time too. So I got all up in my feelings about it a little bit, and just let it kind of. I got disenchanted with trying to do my own thing. So having Pops ask me, you know, having Kurt ask me if I wanted to do stuff with him, as the timing was right, and I told him, yeah, man. So I started doing this with them. So the biggest amount of success I've had as a musician has been, you know, linking up with my old man, who was successful, you know, in his own right to a certain degree, but, you know, never like huge. He's had his moments, but it's hard, man. There's no way around it, dude. Like, especially for rock bands, you know, like even the way we do it now, like I have my own opinions about it and I might be biased, but you know, we get to play some really cool festivals. We play in front of a lot of people, and we get to play some nice venues here and there and stuff. But we also get to play like, you know, some dingy ass rock clubs that I just feel like people have assigned the Meatpuppets to this, like, oh, you know, alternative punk rock sort of thing. So you guys are always like stuck here. You play the rock club. And it's like, what we're putting out these days is not that. And that's not to overstate, like, oh, I think we deserve more. But I just know that we could do more. And I know that it's just weird. It's you watch people pigeonhole you. You like watch it happen, going like, we're playing this same dump club, like, in this like city. It's like, why don't you just book, like, well, see, it's pointless to ask, but it's like, to me, it's like, can't it just be branded differently and then stuck in something like a theater? Like, well, you know, we're playing country music and we're playing it really tight, and we have a keyboard player, and like we're doing 3-part harmonies, but you've got us playing it like, you know, Dingo Butts Rock Hall, you know, and it smells like pee and there's no green room. And me in particular, you know, I still feel like I'm earning my due. You know what I mean? I still feel like I'm green, essentially, and even though I'm not, but I still feel that way, especially with my dad's band, and I'll always feel that way. But those dudes, you know, they're world class, and they really are. And the caliber of, you know, art they put out and the performances they put out, and I guess that includes me at this point, but I still look at it objectively as them. I just think it goes way beyond some of, like, not all of, but some of like where you find yourself. And that's just the business, right? It's not easy. It's a pain in the ass. And, you know, you're trying to milk a dollar out of this thing. And I can tell you, like, you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's awesome, because I also think to myself, well, here I am in Australia, here I am all over Europe, or like, you know, I'm in, you know, different parts of the world, and meeting all these people and playing these shows and driving around and trying different food, and I saw this cool crap, and it's like, you're giving me money for this? Like, you're giving me money to travel all over the world? Like, people break their bank doing the same crap I get paid for. So yeah, I mean, it's hard and it's nasty, and it's, you know, the same old shit over and over again, and you're still stuck in a van to a bunch of people, you know, and you got to like really learn to live with each other, and, you know, learn to like live on the fly and live light and just be cool with what's happening. But breaking into the music industry, I couldn't even imagine that. Like, I'm 36, I'm working on my solo stuff still. Like, I put out my little small songs, but those are just for fun. Like, I've got like real stuff, and it's dope. It's the tightest stuff I've ever made, and it's the best stuff I've ever made. But I'm also not unrealistic. You know, I'm not sitting here going, oh, you know, I'm gonna put my songs online and then someone's gonna find it and be like, you're the next big thing, kid, we'll give you a record deal. Because I'm not a kid, and I've had my shots, you know what I mean? And I might believe in myself a lot right now, and I do. And I don't think I'm wrong to either. I think that I know the difference a little bit better now, and I've, you know, honed my craft in a way, but I'm also not unrealistic. I could put this crap out and 15 people might hear it, and that's just the way shit goes. So it is a rough and tumble business, but like anything else, you know what I mean? If you like it, if it's what you're down for and it's what you do, it's just what I do, right? I always wanted to do it, and I put myself in a position to do it. And because of that, I feel like eternally grateful. So as hard as it might be, none of those things I said, I don't want to seem like I'm complaining. It's just the reality of it. You know what I mean? And I might have some grand idea about what I think could be more about it. But at the same time, you don't see me like, you know, kicking rocks and quitting because I'm not getting what I want, because I am getting what I want. It's awesome, you know? Like, you know, you do what you like. Like, we all do what we like. You pursued your passions, you personally, and like that's what you're doing. Me too. There's nothing better than that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just anybody else. Like, do I want more things? I don't know if I want them. I would like them if it was possible to have them, but I'm cool. I love this. So it's hard, but
Yeah,
so.
and you're talking about the dives and the rooms and all that stuff, and it to me it's disheartening because, you know, like I said, I don't take the puppets and say that, you know, they're the top rock guy, but they're very influential to a lot of people out there, and they're
Right.
still very current, very, like you said, very tight. They're very talented, and when I mean they, I mean the whole group, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't, like, I'm disappointed that you're not playing the smaller, like in Canada here, we have a place that was called the John Labatt Center in London, and I think it holds about 9,000 people. The Cops Coliseum in Hamilton had, you know, 15. If they closed the lower, like Pearl Jam played in both places. But I mean, those type of places is where I could see that you guys should be, or the festivals. Like we used to have, like I said, we had the Lollapalooza here. We had
Right.
we had the up in Barrie, we had the Molson Fest, but I would always expect to see a band like the Puppets being there. Meatpuppets should there. Whether it's Red Hot Chili Peppers, I still group you guys in as history, man. As like this is rock. I mean, it influenced people. You played a part of a big, and like I said, even now I find the last album that came out, and you're a lot more on that as a band member. I have a lot of respect for that music, and not just because I'm talking to you. It's just I listened to it and I said, I like this shit. You know, this is pretty
Yeah, I'm
good, right?
glad.
And I'd expect you. And honestly, right now, like that's my next question to you. 3 concerts I went to. That's all I've been to. Remember how I said this is kind of me reeling in some of my passion. Where
Right.
you're gonna laugh at this. I've seen Pearl Jam twice, and that was because I thought it had to be right? Because I'm going back to the 90s. I thought, and even though I hated Pearl Jam in the 90s because, you know, Kurt hated him, I had to hate him. Kurt didn't hate Eddie. The word was the band, right? But then as I grew, I'm like, oh, these guys seem all right in 90s of mainstream, you know, grunge. So I saw them in 2009, and then I only saw them a second time because they pissed me off and didn't play Yellow Ledbetter as a closer. They played Keep on Rocking in the Free World because of Neil Young being Canadian. When I went to Hamilton, the other place I told you about, they played Yellow Ledbetter. So I'm like, okay, done. Yep, off my bucket list. The first concert I went to, you'll laugh at this one, was in Toronto. It was called the CNE Exhibition Place. Maybe your uncle and your dad have heard of it, but it was New Kids on the Block. When I was probably about, I don't know, 9 or something like that, right? So that is it. Now, you can either kick me in the balls and tell me that I was an idiot. This would have been one of the 4 had I have gone to this concert. When I was in high school, probably it was 1993. I had the chance. I had tickets. I had chance to go see in Toronto the Meatpuppets opening for Nirvana in '93, and I blew it off. And because we're young, we're dumb. I didn't have a license then. I wouldn't have been 16. I would have been 14 or 13, 14 or 15. And at that time, I thought, just like the Beach Boys, they're going to be around forever, just like the Rolling Stones, and you know. And then lo and behold, 4 months later, so that would have been that would have been in October. would have been the concert, I believe, in Toronto, because I believe in November, your dad and your uncle were at MTV Unplugged with Nirvana, and then a couple months later, he was gone. I still remember the day. I was in, like I said, my parents were Lions Club members. They still are. 45 years, my dad was. I was in Niagara Falls, Canada, in a hotel at a Lions convention, turned on the TV, and Kurt Loder was on announcing the death of Kurt Cobain. So here I am X amount of years later, and looking back on it, I had an opportunity in Toronto to see how stupid was I for not going to see the Meatpuppets open up for Nirvana.
Probably would have been fun, man. I don't know, dude. That's
disappointing.
But
it's disappointing for me, right? Because
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Too late.
Stay tuned for the final episode of Part 6 with Elmo Kirkwood.